Hello and welcome, Chooms. Today we're going to look at a couple of interactions that we can do with the cards that Wirko has already revealed to us. Now, I probably missed a bunch, and there's a lot more with the cards we have already. Plus, there is a lot of things that will be changing once we have more cards revealed. But this is a list that I just want to show you today with some things that I found that are pretty cool and some interactions that different cards have with each other. Now, the reason I'm doing this type of tier list and not one where I look at every single card is because a card is always just as good as the environment it's in. And since this is the environment we're currently at, we'll have a look at what we can do now, but also have some thoughts about what might happen later and where some of those cards and combinations could end up on a later stage when the first set is fully revealed. Now, let's roll the intro. Alright, now let's get into it with our first card combination. That is River Ward and the Mandibular Upgrade. Let's have a look at what these cards do. First, the Mandibular Upgrade is a gear that costs 1 eddy and gives no power, but it gives our unit the blocker keyword, which means that when a rival unit attacks, we can just throw our guy in front and block the attack to not lose a gig die. Also, if we put this on a stronger guy, we can prevent our opponent from attacking, because if they did, we could just destroy their units by putting our stronger guy in front of them. For River Ward, he has 2 abilities. He's a legend card, and he has the call ability, draw 1 card, which is great. Now, he also has the much more important ability to, when a unit attacks, spend him to choose a gear from the hand with cost 2 or less and equip it for free to a friendly yellow unit with no equipped gear. Now, this has a lot of different applications. The first one being in our turn, when we attack, to just spend him and cheat out a gear card that's 1 or 2 cost for basically the cost of 1 eddy. But much more interesting is his application in the opponent's turn, because we can, when a rival unit attacks, spend him and place a gear card on top of one of our units. Now you know where this is going. We put the Mandibular Upgrade on our unit, and that way we create a blocker that wasn't there when the opponent started their attack. This can catch them off guard, which is pretty nice, and can help us deal with certain threat cards that we would normally not be able to deal with. This unexpected block is pretty great, and now we could go one step further, and if we had him not called yet, so face down, our opponent wouldn't know that we have him. Since it is possible to call a legend in the opponent's attack phase, we could flip him first in their attack phase and then use his effect in that same attack to place the Mandibular Upgrade on the field. That way, they wouldn't even know that this was coming, because when we have River Ward active, they of course know that this is a possibility, especially if we have him still free to use in their turn. But if he's not there when they start their attack, that of course helps us to catch them off guard even further. Where do we put this combination? I would say it's a pretty great one. Of course, we still have to wait for some more cards that to get revealed. This is currently the only really interesting combination that we can do with River Ward. So he doesn't have many applications that really work and that are strong. Of course, we could put a gear card that just gives attack stats. For example, the Mantis Blades are a +2, which is great, but that's not that strong, and it feels like River Ward wouldn't be worth playing for just that. So let's put him in great. I'm totally expecting to have more cards revealed that work great with this guy. Now, for our second card combination, we have Dum Dum and Kiroshi Optics. Now, Dum Dum is a cool legend. I love his art, but he also has a cool effect. When you call him, you may defeat a friendly gear, and if you do, you draw 4 cards, which is insane. Otherwise, you draw 1. That's cool, because even if you flip him, while not having a gear card on the board, you still get to draw the 1 card. So in some situations, this is still a worth effect, especially if you're really looking for a specific card. But if you have a gear on board, this gets 4 times better. Now, there's a lot of gear cards that we can use. One of the best ones, I'd argue, is Kiroshi Optics. There's 2 reasons for that. If we have a look at Kiroshi Optics, it is a 1-cost gear card that, when we attack, we may look at a friendly face-down legend without revealing it. The cool thing about this is that, for one, it's a really, really cheap option. So we can just play it for 1 and then use it for Dum Dum. But we could also use it to attack with that unit that we have it attached to, and then try to find Dum Dum to then use in our next turn. The reason being that Dum Dum is really a legend you do not want to flip by accident, because just drawing the 1 feels really bad. And Kiroshi Optics is a great card to play, not really for its effect in general, but often because it's cheap and can be sold. And in this case, we even have some slight synergy between the 2 cards. And this is pretty great. And I'd argue that this is also a 4 out of 5, because this is a overall good combination, at least for now. Now, we've done the yellow ones. Now let's go for some green card combinations. And the first I'd like to show you guys is Emergency Atlas with Sandevistan. Let's have a look at those 2 cards. Let's go for Sandevistan first. This card is a gear card which costs 3 eddies and gives +3 power. And when it's played, the unit it's played on can attack spent units this turn. This is a great effect if we need to snipe something specific and we don't really have a unit on board. We can play a unit, place Sandevistan on top of it, and immediately attack that rival unit. But in this case, we're not really doing that, because if we have a look at the Atlas, it is a 4-cost unit which has 7 power. Imagine this scenario. If you are not the player going first, that means you have 4 eddies in your first turn to spend. So you play the Emergency Atlas for 4 eddies. Now the opponent takes their second turn, and afterwards we can play Sandevistan in our second turn on the Atlas. Notice that Atlas has 7 power and Sandevistan gives us +3. This takes us to a total of 10, which is exactly the threshold from stealing 1 gig to stealing 2 gigs with a single attack. So if the opponent does not have an answer to this, for example a blocker or some removal, this means that on turn 2 we can attack them and steal 2 gig dice. And we can do this like the 3rd turn and the 4th turn until they deal with it. This seems to me like one of the best early game combinations. If kept unchecked, this is insane just by the amount of pressure it provides. And yeah, many people aren't prepared for this, I think. But if you can get to do this, can be game winning on the spot. There of course will be more cards revealed, probably some cards that are stronger than the Atlas, probably a lot more cards that can actually deal with it and that can be played in the first 2 turns for the first player to prevent this from happening, or to maybe get rid of the Atlas, some removal cards. But I think especially now, while we don't have that many cards yet, this is a combination to look out for. And in this case, I'll give it a 4 out of 5. Turn 2 Jackie seems pretty good, so let's put this up there. Next card, we have Corporate Security, and Riding Nomad. The Riding Nomad is a green card that has the ability that it can attack a spent rival unit the turn it's played. This is nice because it can generally attack units that attacked the turn before because they were spent, and then we can just get rid of them. Corporate Security, on the other hand, is a program that costs 2 eddies and spends a rival unit with cost 3 or less, which is great because we can spend a rival unit and then play the Riding Nomad and attack it immediately, getting rid of that card. There's a couple of issues that I have with this combination. The first one is that this only works on enemy units that have costs of 3 or less. So we don't actually get to answer any of the real threat cards here. It's just for the smaller guys, and spending an entire turn, because remember, this costs 6, this costs 2, so we have to spend 8 eddies and an attack to deal with a small threat. That means that combination is definitely not worth it. Is just play removal, floor it, get that thing back to hand. And so I don't think this will ever be playable. All right, now let's take a look at El Somberon and Satori. El Somberon is a cool looking card. He has the ability that when he attacks a rival unit, he gets to double his attack power. This is cool because any additional power that he gets from abilities, effects, or gear cards is also doubled. In this case, the Satori gives us +1. When he attacks, the +1 here will be added, and he has 10. This is cool, but it only works against rival units. The nice thing about this is that the Satori will also draw us a card every time we do this, and since we already want him to be our guy that removes the rival's units, this is a perfect combination. He wants to attack units, Satori wants him to attack units, so every time we do that, we remove something and we draw a card. Now, the issue with this is that while he's a great headhunter, he's also not that good in defense, because once he attacks, he gets spent, and once he gets attacked, he does not double his power points, which means that he's left on 5 power. This means that he can get removed by a lot of cards in the game. So, is this worth it? He's great at dealing with singular threats that we want to get rid of, but unfortunately, he's wide open on the clapback, and also once the opponent gets rid of him, we also lose the Satori, which means we lose 2 cards. Let's put it at okay. Let's look at our first Hanako Arasaka combination. Hanako is a great card, and I love her effect. I love card draw and card advantage, so this perfectly plays into that. When she's played, we reveal the top 4 cards of our deck, and then we choose a friendly gig and add all the cards with cost equal to that gig's value to our hand. The important thing about Hanako is that she has 0 power, so she cannot steal gig dice. This is where the Gorilla Arms come into play, because Gorilla Arms is a 4-cost gear that gives +4 attack, and the first time the unit steals a gig, each turn you may steal a rival gig with the same number of sides. This has some really cool implications with Hanako, because first, when she attacks, she gets the +4, which suddenly makes her eligible to steal a gig. But also, the Gorilla Arms will steal another extra gig through its effect. So, in this case, Gorilla Arms is doubly effective. It does not just give us +1 gig by its effect, or by playing it on a card, it gives us +2. This makes Hanako a really, really nice card, and it actually gives us a way of using her after she's played. Generally, she just sits there. Maybe we put a mandibular upgrade on her and just block something strong and have her removed that way. But this gives us another offensive ability and a way of making her a threat. And So this is great. Also, we can choose and find the gorilla arms with Hanako Arasaka, provided we have a gig die that has the number 4 on it. Both gorilla arms and Hanako are like really, really good cards. So I'd put this combination up here simply because both cards are great. This is a mono yellow combination. And even if we draw just one of those, there's a bunch of other cards that work great with them. So let's put this up here to Prime. Let's go to our dual color card combinations. And the next one is one of my absolute favorites. It's Cyberpsychos and Evelyn Parker. Let's have a look at those two. We've got Cyberpsychos right here. This is actually a pretty complex, but also really, really good card. And there's our small Evelyn Parker. We've also got the legend one, but we need this one for that to work. Evelyn Parker costs 2, and she has a singular point of power. So she's not that strong. But in this case, this does not matter. When she is on the board and she is spent, while a rival steals one or more friendly gigs, you can draw a card. Actually, it's not optional, you draw a card. Now, the cool thing about her is that she's a easy early play that can attack and deal some damage, steal some gigs, and when she attacked, she is spent. So if the opponent attacks back, we get some card advantage on top of that. This is cool, so she's already a good card. Now let's have a look at Cyberpsychos. Cyberpsychos is a 2-cost yellow card. It is a program, and it's also a quick hack. This means that we can play this on the opponent's turn. This is really important because of its effect. You may also play this program when a unit attacks by paying this card's cost and spending a friendly unit or face-up legend. So when the rival attacks with a rival unit, we can play this by spending 2 eddies and also spending a friendly unit or face-up legend. This means that we can spend Evelyn Parker as cost and target the opponent's unit that is attacking, giving it +2 for each equipped gear. Now, note that it has to be an equipped unit, which means that it has to have a gear attached at least, and we also give it some power. So this could get them over the threshold, so be mindful of that. But we defeat the unit at the end of that turn, which is great, especially if we have some large unit like a Jackie or a Placide that we really have to get rid of. The nice thing about this is not only do we have a low cost unit that we can spend as cost for this card, but also Evelyn Parker will draw us a card on top of this. This is such a nice combination. Of course, we can also do that with the low life, that when spent and a gig die is stolen, you can put the value of that gig die to a 1. Which is also great, but I find Evelyn Parker to be just that bit stronger because of the card advantage that she gives. Basically, swapping the Cyberpsychos in hand for a new card, whilst getting rid of an opponent's card. This is probably the best combination for Cyberpsychos, having Evelyn Parker on the board. And since both cards are strong, I'll put this in Prime. Let's talk about Goro Takamura, Vengeful Bodyguard. Goro Takamura, Vengeful Bodyguard, is a green legend without power. And when he's called, he can be readied. Which means that if you spend him and then reveal him or call him, he gets to be readied and you can spend him again in the same turn. Either for another eddy, which is great, or when a rival unit attacks, you can spend him, and if you have a pair of same-sided gigs, this gives a unit of cost 4 or less, +1 power and blocker this turn. This is nice in the way that, firstly, we can do the same thing we did with River Ward. We can basically wait out the opponent's turn and in their attack phase spend 2 eddies to call him. The nice thing being that he also readies himself, so he doesn't have to be a ready card while face down. But also, we can immediately use him to make one of our guys a blocker with +1 power, which is nice. Another way of catching our opponent off guard. Now, currently there is not many cards that are actually good with this. Some that I can think of are the red V Street Kid, which has a defeated effect, so we can use him and throw him in front of the bus and get his effect. Now, that's not that great. It works against especially strong units. If we would lose 2 or 3 gig dice, this makes sense. But I'd probably not just throw V away like this. There's another pair of good cards, one of them being the Hanako. Hanako, with 0 power, does not do much, but she's a great chump blocker. If we can get her in front of a strong unit, that's definitely a good way of using her after she has already used her reveal effect. The third card, or card type, that I would like to show is the Emergency Atlas, or Delamain. This is cool in a way that it already has high power with 7. This goes up to 8, and 8 power is a force to deal with, especially if it comes at you to block you suddenly and unexpectedly. Now, Goro Takamura will probably get a lot better over time, with more 4 or lower cost cards revealed. For now, he's not that great. I'll probably put him down here. He can be really strong in a situation where the opponent only has 1 attacker, but if we don't have the double dice, he just does nothing. So let's put him down here. Though with more cards revealed that work well with him, he'll probably get a lot better. Alright, let's talk about the biggest guy in the room. He is Atom Smasher, and he has probably one of the most awesome arts of all the cards we have had revealed to us, but he also has one of the worst effects that we could have. He costs 9 eddies and has 15 power, and when he's played, defeat all other units. Now, this has some implications, the main one being that when we play him in a turn, we actually cannot attack in that turn because he has to be played before the attack phase, and he basically clears our board as well, clearing our board of all the units that would be able to attack. Now, this is not great. He also has a 5 yellow ram, so we can only play him in a mono yellow deck. He has some implications regarding defeated abilities, and there's a couple that we have. We have the Street Kid V, which can get us a card back. We also have Caliber, which is a nice card in the way that it lets our rival discard at least 1 card, and maybe 2, depending on the gig dice they have. So there is definitely some synergy, but I think that the main reason why this isn't good is because Atom Smasher just does not do it right now. He's not a good card, he costs too much, you can get him out very, very late, but it only makes sense to play him in some specific scenarios. In many scenarios, it just auto loses you the game because the opponent has too many gig dice, and you actually lose your ability to steal them back before their turn, and so they have 6 or more gigs at the start of their turn. And even if we get him out in a situation where it matters and it actually works, he has a couple of cards that just counter him heavily and that are just that much better. So, Atom Smasher with defeated abilities, I would say this is not good. I'll place him here simply for the fact that we haven't seen a lot of the cards. So how good this combination is has a lot to do with the ability to manage Atom Smasher's weak points, which is his high cost, and him destroying our board if we get some ramp cards, and if the defeated abilities are great, that are the ones that will be revealed later, and maybe make him able to attack that turn. I would love to have this guy be an actually strong card, especially since he was such a menace in the 2077 game. Now, let's take another look at another different Arasaka combination, and that is Hanako and her father Saburo. Now let's find Saburo. He is a green card. He has the ability that when one of our Arasaka units attack, they get +1 power when attacking. Now, this is kind of a bad effect, just in the way that oftentimes it does not matter at all. There is some use cases for him, but I think the best use case for this guy is to work with his daughter, because remember, Hanako has a attack stat or a power stat of 0, and so when she attacks, Saburo gives her +1, which makes her a 1 power card, which makes her eligible to actually steal a gig die. This is nice because it's just another way of making this card work, but it's probably the only real application for Saburo Arasaka, and I think that it's not one that we want or need to play. So for all the Fast and Furious fans, I'm sorry, no family today. Now, lastly, we have 3 combinations with all of our favorite legend, and that's Panam Palmer. Panam Palmer is a great card in itself. When she is called, she can be readied. Now, why is it important that she's ready? When a friendly unit attacks, you can spend her and choose a gear that is attached to her and equip it to that unit. If you do that, ready that unit. So if we have a unit that has 20 power, that's strong. And there's a bunch of things that we can do with Panam. Let's have a look at what these are. The first one is Panam Palmer and Dying Knight. V's Pistol is a gear card that costs 2, gives +2 attack, and when we attack, if we have 7 or more street cred, we can defeat a rival gear that costs 2 or less. This is good, and it's even better if we have it on Panam and give it to our attacking unit with her, and that unit being able to attack twice gives us 2 attack triggers, which is removing 2 cards from our rival's field. So Panam with attack triggers, pretty strong thing. There's a bunch of them. V's Pistol is one, Placide is another. We can attack with him and discard a program from your hand and bottom deck a rival unit. This can be done when he attacks. It's not once per turn. So Panam has great synergy with these cards. And I'd say this is definitely a great, might even be a preem. Let's put it up here. I think there will be a lot more really strong cards that heavily benefit from Panam's ability. Another way we can use her ability is actually one that's not that crazy, but we can use her with Goro Takamura, Hands Unclean. Goro has 5 cost and 7 power with Go Solo and Blocker, which means that he as a legend can be played into the unit space and then attack even the turn we used Go Solo. So you can basically play him and instantly attack. He also has the Blocker ability, which is great for a 7 power card. So he gives us some great defensive ability. Now, why is he good with Panam? Remember, Panam gives us the ability to attach gear to one of our attackers and then ready them. This now helps us have Goro Takamura either attack and then attack again, which is nice, or attack and then we ready him and don't attack again. This gives us the ability to either block, which is good, and it gives our opponent some things to consider because they can't just attack with all the small and low cost guys. And yeah, so now they have to think about their turn and what they can actually attack with. So he really disincentivizes attacking. The other thing to consider is that when he is readied and we do not attack again, yes, we have him as a blocker, but also this means that he cannot be targeted for an attack. So if our opponent has a Jackie or another really strong unit, they cannot just attack our Goro and clear him out of the way. And so we can choose which card he blocks. And it's very, very difficult for them to remove him. Also because a couple of the removal cards are only used on spent units. So this protects our blocker from actually getting removed easily, which is great. Now, does this actually matter? The thing is that both are green, which is good. And since they're both legend cards, this means that we do not rely on drawing them. We have them on the field already, and we can just call them whenever we need to. And once they're called, they're there, ready to use. Takamura ready to go solo, and Panam ready to support him with her sniper rifle. So I'll put this in great. Finally, one of the best combinations or use cases we have seen for Panam Palmer is with our boy Jackie. And let me just put this up here to show where I think this should go. Now, Jackie is a powerhouse. He gains power for each friendly gig we have. And with +2, that means that if we have 4 gig dice, that's +8. And we go to 14. That is strong. Now let's imagine putting gorilla arms on him. That is also good because he steals more gig dice, which makes him even stronger, which makes him get over the 20 mark, which makes him steal more gig dice. And also, if we now use Panam Palmer to put the gorilla arms on Jackie, he gets to attack. We then ready him and he attacks again. And this seems to be like one of the strongest card combination out there with all the cards that have been revealed. Simply because Jackie is so oppressive with his attack stat, there's not much that can get over him. And also, Panam is one of the most versatile legends. So I'll definitely have this here. Remember that to play this combination, you have to play 2 yellow legends. So this only works if you have River, Dum Dum, or some of the other yellow legends on your side, which you might not want. But if you do, this is definitely one of the greater combinations out there. Now, I've probably missed a bunch of card combinations that are strong or interesting, but this is by far not an exhaustive list, especially since we still have a lot of cards to be revealed to us. So this will probably change, especially the rankings and the amount of interaction between all of those cards. But it's just a small snippet of what's to come. And I find it very interesting that even with so little cards, there's already so many interesting things that we can do, so many variations and so many cool interactions. And it just shows the amount of love that's put into this game. And it shows why the game has so many supporters and it raised so much money on Kickstarter. And it makes me more excited for the future and what future cards and reveals hold. Now, I'm also excited to see which combinations I have missed, which you guys have noticed. So write them down in the comments and we will probably make another one of these videos once we have more cards revealed. Also, if you disagree with me, I'm interested to know why and why you guys think some of these combinations should be higher or lower on the tier list. Also, this is just my opinion and with the limited knowledge that we currently have. And with that, I hope you guys have a great day and I'll see you around, tubes.